Good morning, Grinders. Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, your buddy blenderhd, blenderhd on Twitter. And this is the show. Well, this is normally we talk about yesterday's slate. We talk a little bit about today's slate, right? All the normal stuff. But we got MLB coming up tomorrow. So just like yesterday, going over some strategy deep dive, some new features to Lineup HQ, talking about building lineups, answering your questions. That's what I do here in the morning. All the people in the YouTube chat, you're my buddies, right? You're the priority. If you show up here 11 o'clock every weekday and you ask your questions, I have the answers, most of the answers. I answer about 90% of the questions in the YouTube chat, but I see you guys there, Jupocalypse, Aaron Rasmus, Clay Loofborough, Card Fan, Tony A, Hog Lawrence, Ryan Edwards, Matt Mears. I hit the thumbs up button. You know what to do. I got my apple juice here. It's pretty cold. Pretty damn cold. You're keeping it cold for me. Hit the thumbs up button. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. A programming note, tomorrow there is no DFS pregame show. We have obviously have a 1 p.m. Eastern slate for MLB. I mean, I think on DraftKings, it's they mixed it up. I think FanDuel, the lock is like 105, and then DraftKings isn't doing their slate till 2. So like there's some overlap there. They're both like 9-game slates, but they're like overlapping. And Yahoo doesn't have theirs until 4, their main slate. But on those types of days, so there'll be no DFS pregame show at 11 in the morning Eastern, but there'll be Grinders Live, 11:25 a.m. Eastern, and that's going to be with Dean, that's going to be with Cardi, and that's going to be with me. So on the morning, you're still going to catch me in the morning. Don't worry. You still got me in the morning. It's just that it won't be on this show. It'll be on Grinders Live, and we'll be talking about tomorrow's slate, specifically tomorrow's slate. Who to play, what to do, right? You got Dean with I don't know if there's any body parts. I have no idea. Cardi's there. The sample size problems, right? And it'll be me with my vomit stacks saying, here's the team I'm going to stack, and people think I'm crazy. So if you want to figure that out, show up here tomorrow, 11:25 on YouTube, and you hit the notification bell. You'll always know when we go live. We got tons of shows coming up this month in April, because we also got NBA. It's not like the NBA is still around, okay? I may not be playing much, if any, NBA anymore. I'm focusing on MLB, but there'll still be NBA Grinders Live. There'll still be Crunch Time, but there'll also be MLB baseball shows. So it's going to be shows like there's going to be like 4 or 5 shows on YouTube like every single day, plus Crunch Time for the premium members. And you can sign up for premium, rotogrinders.com/premium. You can click on the link in the description, get $10 off your first month. And you have a combo premium package. If you're going to play multiple sports, it's like $99 or something. Like it pays for everything, right? PGA, MMA, anything you want. Or if you just want to play one sport, then it's, like $40 a month. And you get all the projections for the sport. You get everything. You get access to everything. Lineup HQ, everything you possibly need. Everything that I use. Obviously, for MLB, I also use the bat projections, and those are available. That's a little bit extra, okay? If you want to use Derek Carty's projection system, so you could sign up for that. But that's what I use. I'm telling you exactly what I use, okay? I'm profitable in MLB DFS. This is what I use. I use Lineup HQ. I use Cardi's, the bat projections. I use Slate IQ. That's another. We don't have that out for tomorrow yet. I'm assuming that'll be early tomorrow morning or something. Obviously, we have the ownership projections. You get that too. Slate IQ it simulates the slate. It uses past slates because we have all the DraftKings database, in our system and for Results DB, and it finds similar slates, like the 25 most similar slates, and then it runs a simulation of the current slate based on that context, and shows what type of lineup constructions come up first in like a large field GPP percentage of the time. Now, with the construction dynamics, and is it a cheap pitcher? Is it an expensive pitcher? A lot of that stays consistent. Those percentages for the size of the slate stay consistent pretty much throughout the year, but the main focus of Slate IQ is in the top stacks. Okay, so it'll show Slate IQ, which is run multiple times because the ownership matters, right? Ownership at pitcher change, a batting order change, or something like that. There may be a slight difference. If there's a major change, if there's no major change, the percentages aren't going to change much. It'll show like all the teams, right? I don't know. We have. I don't even know if I could show if we have anything from last year. I don't know. I have no idea. But it'll show the teams, like all the teams, like Dodgers, Padres, Orioles, Red Sox, and their percent in that simulation that was the top stack, that was in the winning GPP lineup, that either 4-man or 5-man stack, because we're talking about DraftKings now. So the 4-man or 5-man stack appeared in the winning GPP lineup in a simulation. So it'll show you the percentages. So we may have tomorrow Dodgers 12%, Padres 9%, Orioles 3%, right? Pirates 0.8%, right? So it'll show the percentage of times. And then the other column will show the average ownership of that stack, of that 4 or 5-man stack. So you'll get to now compare where the leverage is stack-wise. Okay, so you're looking like if we have the Dodgers, 12%, let's say it's 12%, but they're going to be owned at 18%. Well, that's negative leverage, right? They're owned more often than they show up as the top stack. Now, they still have a 12% chance. They still have the top chance. So that doesn't mean you still don't play the Dodgers, but it just means that they're over-owned. They're the most probable, but they're over-owned. So you know that if you're going to play Dodgers stacks, that you need to find a way to get different elsewhere. That Dodger stacks with a 2% owned pitcher. Okay, now we're talking. And then we also go to the bottom where it's like, okay, we have a team, let's say the Twins or something. I don't know, I'm just making it up. 3% chance of being the top stack in the GPP winning lineup. But they're only going to be owned average 1.2%. Well, that's positive leverage, right? They're only going to be owned 1.2%, but they have a 3% chance of being the top stack. Now that's plus EV. Okay. Now it's still 4 times less. Remember, the Dodgers are 12, Twins are 3. So the Dodgers still 4 times more likely to be the winning stack. But when the Twins are the winning stack, there's half the people own them. So you possibly make more money in those situations. So that's what you're looking for in Slate IQ. But those are the tools that I use. Okay. I eat my own dog food. So it's not like okay, there's this RotoGrinders stuff that I'd say that you should pay for. Click on the link in the description, get $10 off, and I'm just being a salesman, and then I use my own stuff. No, this is exactly the stuff that I use. Exactly. The lineup HQ, Cardi's projections, Slate IQ. You just give me that, and that's what I play MLB DFS with, right? It's like, oh, well, do you have your own Excel thing? No, I don't have nothing. I have nothing holding back. I have nothing hiding behind the green screen. I got nothing. This is exactly what I use. And then obviously your brain, right? For game theory. And that's what I talk about on this show. But we see in lineup HQ, I just wanted to show off because yesterday we talked a bunch about kind of some of the lineup construction, some new features. Okay. One I'll show you is in the build rules. You may not have to use this often, but we now have a pitcher salary cap in the build rules, and it's by default 50,000 because obviously you can't spend 50,000. So 50,000, just obviously whatever combination of pitchers you want to use. But let's say we see a lot of times when we have some cheap hitters that if you did the knapsack problem, by trying to jam in as much median as possible, that it's going to try to jam in like these 2K hitters alongside expensive pitchers a lot of the times. Maybe not tomorrow's slate, but a lot of the times. So, you may get, in this example, a lot of Darvish Nola lineups, right? Because it's like, oh, I'm going to pay $20,500 for pitching, and then, then jam in Cedric Mullins and David Dahl and Kettle Marte and whoever is stupidly underpriced. But it's baseball. So it doesn't matter they're stupidly underpriced. They can just go 0 for 4, just like anyone else. So if you want to prevent those types of builds, more so than not, without having to use groups. Because a lot of times I would use groups for this and say, no, I don't want more than one 10K pitcher on a lineup, which you could still do. What you can do is just set it so, like, if I don't want in my lineups, let's say I don't want like if I want like Glasnow to be like the highest price pitcher that I want to play. Okay? So if Glasnow's the highest price pitcher that I want to play, obviously the next Flaherty is next. So like we have like, let's see, 17,400, right? I believe is the right. We add these up, that's 17,400. So if I go into build rules and put in 17,400 right here, obviously it's not gonna give me Darvish Kershaw lineups. It's not gonna give me Glasnow, anyone above here, right? It can give me Maeda Castillo lineups, right? Because that comes in at, no, that's 17.5 actually. It can give me Castillo Woodruff lineups. It can give me Kershaw Hendricks lineups, right? So do you see the power in this? So instead of having to create these types of groups, if you want to make, you have, certain allocation to pitcher versus batter from a percentage standpoint, we allow you to do that now by using an exact pitcher salary cap. Now, you could have two different builds. You may have one build that you want to do this and another build you want to do something differently. So you make two builds for that. But for mostly, you could get everything done by just the pitcher salary cap. Because I could look here and say, let's say, if I do play Darvish, like I don't want to play Darvish Glasnow. I don't want to spend that much on pitching. So Darvish plus, let's see, Darvish plus Alcantara. Yeah, that would be 16.9. Or Eovaldi. Right? Like those lineups could be built, right? But not like Darvish Nola, Darvish Kershaw, Castillo, no, two guys together. It's an easier way to do it now than by making pitcher groups. Okay? I mean, obviously, if you don't want a specific group, I mean, if you don't want, I don't want Darvish plus Alcantara at all. I like, okay, well then make a group. And so they don't show up together, right? So a lot of times in GPP, even though it's, the win is only a marginal part of the pitcher's outcome, like you're probably not going to play, on a large slate, probably not going to play the pitchers from the same game against each other, right? So you're most likely not going to play Glasnow and Alcantara in the same lineup. In a large field GPP. Small field, you could probably get away with. Remember, the win on DraftKings is 4 points. And only one of them can get it. But of course, like 40% of the time, neither starting pitcher gets a win. So, like, it doesn't necessarily mean it's complete. Like, the negative correlation is a matter of like maybe a point and a half, not 4 points on average. So it's about a point and a half. But in large field GPPs, when you have to beat 70,000 people, right? 70,000 entries in the contest, 1.5 point may be the difference between first and fifth place. So, yeah, maybe I care about the point and a half when it comes to large field. You're playing a 200 entry GPP, small field stuff, probably doesn't matter that much. I mean, it by default, I probably, don't want to limit my upside because the two pitchers, the only way they're negatively correlated is by the win. Like they're not negatively correlated because one team has anything to do with the other team. The pitcher, what does it matter, right? Okay, so it's only for the win, but understand that like over 40% of the time, around there, neither pitcher gets a win. So it's not going to matter either way. They both could pitch well. They both go 7 innings and they both give up 1 run. Neither of them are going to get the win, but both of them could possibly appear in the GPP winning lineup. So don't use that as like a default of you could never play the same pitchers in the opposite pitchers in the same game, right? Now, do you play hitters against the pitchers? No, you don't do that. I wouldn't ever do that except for really small slates where you almost have to. But on a 9-game slate, you ain't playing pitchers and batters against each other, right? Even one. If I'm going to play Mookie Betts in the pitch, why? You have tons of other options, and the projections are all so close on a lot of players. Like, why would you take on that negative correlation for no apparent reason? You just play another player, play another pitcher. There are plenty of options to do so. So that build rules with the pitcher salary cap, that helps you. So okay, I'm going to put this back to 50,000. Go into the YouTube chat before I show off the next feature. Go through the YouTube chat. Tony A, bring on the puke stacks. Do you like? I like vomit. I call it vomit stacks. People like calling it puke stacks. Too many K's. Too many like puke stacks. Puke stack. I don't know. I like vomit stacks. I think it has a little bit more power. Vomit stacks. Shane Newman, is Weather Edge on RG anything useful? Already have the bat X. Well, if you already have the bat already takes into account the weather. So do you need Weather Edge? No. But I mean, it's useful. I mean, that's the weather. And then we have the historic data on the percentage, the games based on that weather are runs up or home runs down or ERA up, like that type of stuff. But Bacardi already accounts for all of that, all the weather in the bat projections. So just don't count it twice. It's useful, right? It's useful there. The wind's going this way and home runs are up 12%. Well, I mean that 12% will be in the projections, but it doesn't mean it's not useful. If you want to use Weather Edge, use Weather Edge. I'm not sure how much the weather, if any, is it. I'm not sure. You'd have to ask Jamino about the Plate IQ projections, the RG ones. But the bat. I know Cardi takes into account the ballparks. He takes into account stuff I've never even heard of before. But it's like 200, 300 factors that go into his projections. But weather is one of them. So, is it useful? Yes. Is it necessary with the bat? No. So understand that there are tons of things that are useful, just whether or not that is it already reflected in the projections you're looking at. So you're not double counting it. So you could say, the projections are great on the Dodgers at Coors Field, and they're at Coors Field. Like it's already in there. It's already like knowing the ballpark factors. Yeah, well, okay, it's useful. Sure, I guess so. Right? Or with the batted ball data. It's like, Mookie Betts has more of a chance of hitting doubles because of the way Coors. Yeah, it's already in. It's already in the projections. So if you want to know the reasons why, sure, I guess all that helps. Is it necessary? For me personally, it's not necessary because I care about as long as you distill it down to a number and I trust the model. I don't need to know why, right? I don't. If you need to know why, we have all the whys. So on RotoGrinders for premium cheese. Dave Potts, cheese is good. His musings article is like 5,000, 10,000 words a day. I don't know how he writes that much, but he goes into and if you read it, it's all useful. It's a great article. He writes every weekday for every slate, going through each pitcher, going through stacks, going through all the data, all the statistics, everything. It's great. It's a great article. Also understand that a lot of that information is already reflected in the projections. So while it's useful, his article is a why article, right? And it also shows a lot of strategy stuff of like, this guy is more volatile. He may be overowned, so you get a little bit of those nuggets in it in his piece. But I mean, it's useful, but is it necessary? So that's really what it comes down to. It comes down to how much time you want to spend. So yeah, I read Cheese's article every day. I do. Do I need to? No, I don't. But I enjoy it. I enjoyed the why. But I also know at the end of the day, I'm going to look at I'm going to look at Cardi's projections and go, it's 10.2, whatever. I don't care. The why doesn't matter as long as I have the number, as long as I have the answer. I could start building lineups. So certain days, if I don't have a chance to read Cheese's article, then I don't. It doesn't necessarily affect my gameplay. So you have to understand the difference between, is it useful? Is it needed? Everything's useful. Every piece of information. We want to spend 6 hours going through baseball data and statistics and everything. Sure, it's useful. Just, is it necessary? If you have a projection and it's all distilled down to, is there a need to do that? Not necessarily. Okay, let's see. Go through the YouTube chat a little bit more. Let's see. Right. GR Saucedo also mentions, yeah, that Cardi, if you get the bat projections, he also does bat specific podcasts like 2 or 3 days a week. So he'll talk about this like for bat subscribers. And he's always in the Discord. I mean, he's always in the, I mean, during baseball season, especially when it gets close, 2 hours to the slate or whatever, he'll answer any question when it comes to, pitching, pitch counts, and any type of factor. Like if you have an issue, you're like, wow, why does this guy project well? Like he could answer it. I mean, he has so many variables in his system that he'll say, nope, especially these SP2s. I can tell you from experience with his projections the past, 4 years, that the pitching projections in and of themselves are almost invaluable. Hitting projections, I mean, the usual suspects are going to be the usual suspects. Oh, the Dodgers are in cores. They're going to project well. Yeah. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to tell me that, right? Or a team is all priced at 2,800 and they're in Fenway Park. Yeah, I think the Orioles. Yeah, the Orioles top 5 may not be worth more than like 14,000 in salary tomorrow or something like that. The Diamondbacks against the Darvish, they're all like minimum price or something. I mean, if you want to play a team against Darvish, sure. But I mean, like you don't have to, it doesn't take a rocket science to know about that. But the pitching, like a lot of times, yeah, the top, yes, DeGrom and Cole and Bieber. Yeah, why do they project well? Well, they're the best pitchers in baseball. Yeah, they project well. But sometimes you get these $6,000, $6,200, pitchers that like people aren't even looking at. Just like, okay, whatever. And then based on the matchup and based on the data that Cardi has, it's like, oh, one of the top point per dollar projected pitchers on the slate, and it's like the guy's going to be 4% owned. And you play him, and he puts up like 16 points, which is all that's needed for like a $6K pitcher or $5,500 pitcher on DraftKings, and then only 4% of people are playing him. So the pitching projections separate the bat from a lot of other systems around the industry. So sometimes you get burned. Sometimes Drew Smiley gives up 4 home runs in an inning, right? Because the bat has its favorites, right? Typically Drew Smiley and Joe Musgrove and guys that are not bad, are not like horrible, but the site's just priced down like too much. Like sometimes you just get Pablo Lopez at 5,400, and you go like Pablo Lopez is a better pitcher than a $5,400 pitcher. He's not better. He's about a $7,500 pitcher, so it's not like he's a great pitcher, but he's just way too underpriced on the slate as it is, and that allows you to then pay up for an SP1 and then still get good batters. Okay, so another feature, I petitioned for this feature for at least 2 years, right? I think even before, I think just when I came on as part of the team. I've been with RotoGrinders for almost 2 years now. But it was the first thing, like I came on with MLB. This is the feature that I wanted to help me the most. Since in MLB, I tend to multi-enter. I tend to make 50, 80, 100 lineups for a slate. And that's what we're calling, what happened to it? Did they get rid of it? Oh, okay. It's on FanDuel. Do I not reload? Because they've been testing this. Is it in production? I hope it is. DraftKings, let's see. Is it still here? Okay. There. It came back. Okay, thank you. I was going to show it up, and it disappeared. Maybe something was wrong with that. I was testing it before. Seemed pretty good. Okay. See this column? We have a new column here. Obviously, OIS. You go, what the hell is OIS? Are we old school punk rockers going oi? No. OIS means only in stacks. So use hitter only in stacks. When checked, this hitter will only be used as part of a specified quick stack. Okay? So these are the instances I've explained before where you don't necessarily want the optimizer, you don't want lineup HQ to jam in some garbage 8th or 9th hitter that you may be using in a stack as a one-off in another lineup, right? So you'd have a $2,400 garbage player in there. You want to use them as part of your 5-man stacks, but you don't want to use them as a one-off. Well, this checkbox allows you to do that, so you don't have to make like these convoluted groups. You could do it via groups. It just takes forever. You have to make like 5 groups for each player, in order to do this. So we do that for you now. So for instance, if we were to go, let's say, to Baltimore. I'm just using Baltimore as an example because we currently have Cedric Mullins is like leading off for 2,100. Okay. So let's say we're going to go by batting order. Let's say Cedric Mullins, yeah, he's leading off. I mean, we also have the bottom of the order. Like if you don't want the bottom of the order only in stacks. But let's say Cedric Mullins is too popular. You're like, I don't want to use a chalk Cedric Mullins as a one-off. I don't mind using him as part of an Orioles stack, but not as a one-off. So I just check the box and it's done. So if I'm going to create Baltimore stacks, Cedric Mullins will obviously appear in those. He's eligible to appear in those, but he's not eligible to appear in a not as part of a non-stack lineup. So I'm going to build 20 lineups. Let's say I'm going to go to my stacks and I'm going to set Baltimore on 50%, on whatever. Doesn't matter. 50%. So I'm going to build 20 lineups with 5x. And we can see here, Cedric Mullins. So Cedric Mullins is in all of these lineups, 5-man Baltimore stacks, right here, right here, right here. But he's not in as a $2,100 one-off in the other lineups. So let's say we continue with that. So that we have Jorge Alfaro showing up a bunch, right? So he's showing up as a cheap catch, $2,400 catcher facing Glasnow tomorrow. So he's obviously not in Marlin stacks because they don't even project that well. So we have Alfaro. So let's say you don't want Jorge Alfaro, because let's say we're building Marlin stacks now. Let's just say, okay. So let's say we're going to go into stacks and go, okay, I want some Marlin stacks. Oh, here, it's a 10% or whatever it is. We got 2 of them or something. But I don't want Alfaro as a one-off in them. So I'm going to go to Alfaro. I'm not saying you should be doing this because it's a catcher and who cares. So I'm going to click that. That's a way of keeping a guy in your player pool because even if we didn't set the Marlin stacks, it's quite possible Alfaro will just never show up in a lineup ever. Because if you're not playing a Marlin stack, Alfaro will never be in because they can't use him as a one-off. So now I'm going to build 20. We should see Alfaro. Right, Alfaro is here. See, in these 2, here's the 2 Marlin stacks, right? Because we're building 20 lineups and I wanted 10%, so that's 2 lineups. But now he's not showing up in all those 50% of your lineups the other way as the catcher. We go to catcher now. We get, obviously, the Baltimore stacks all have Cisco in it. Then we have Caratini looks like Caratini's in Padres stacks. So Caratini. Here's Carson Kelly. So let's say it's like, oh, I don't want to have a one-off Carson Kelly. Let's say you don't. Like, look, it's not showing me any Diamondback stacks. Well, let's say I just don't want any Carson Kelly outside of a Diamondback stack. Even I'm not even playing Diamondback stacks. But instead of Xing Carson Kelly out, I just click that box. Right? So we looked at the lineups that we just had. Carson Kelly was in one lineup, right? Not in a stack, just with Kettle Marte in a Dodger stack. It's like instead of just Xing him out or something, it's like, okay, once I check that box, I know Carson Kelly cannot appear in a lineup like this. This lineup can't exist now because it's not a Diamondback stack. I'm going to build 20 lineups again. I shouldn't get any Carson Kelly. Right, none. Because I don't have any Diamondback stacks. So I don't have to X him out. I don't have to X him out anymore. I can just say not in stacks. I'm playing stacks fine. So now we're looking through. Let's say we have all these stacks. We could show the stack summary right here. 10, 4, 4, 2. We got 2 Marlin stacks for whatever. I mean, this is just an example. I'm not saying this is what I'm going to do tomorrow. Get the combo star. Okay, we don't have the combo star summary there. Player exposures. So now we're looking through. We're looking at maybe we're looking through some more. We got Carlos Santana. Jurickson Profar. So let's take a look at Jurickson Profar. He's batting 8th for 3,200. Maybe we only want him in stack. Now he's only showing up in stacks. But let's say we want to make sure. If we're building 100 lineups, maybe he shows up as a one-off at first base in 2 lineups. It's like we don't want that. So I could go to Profar. Only in stacks. Done. So let's see this in. Let's build a whole bunch of lineups. So I'm going to do 5x. I'm going to do, max 20% of any stack. Well, let's do even less. Max 10%. Right? We'll get a whole diverse set of stacks. Okay? We look at the build rules. Okay, that's fine. 48,000 is the minimum. Doing the 5x stacks. Going to the player pool. Assuming I could do the yes. Okay? So let's say, for instance, okay, let's do this as an example. Where do we go? Okay, catchers. So let's say I only want to play catchers in stacks. Let's just say. I'm not saying that you should do this as a blunt tool, just like always, whatever. But a lot of times you'll see me on Grinders Live. Oh, we're getting the catcher. Who do you play a catcher? It's like either you're paying up for like an actual catcher that does something, right? Or you're just playing whoever's in your stack. So I'd look at this and I go, and I just check, double check, check. I just keep on going. Now, Contreras, I don't mind. Will Smith, maybe I don't mind. Trevino, Molina, Perez, I may not mind. Vasquez, I may, Real Muto, Darno. Maybe even Zunino projects horribly. But I just check. Only in stack. I just do them all. Except for the higher priced ones that, could actually maybe do something on their own. More than not. More often than not. So this saves the trouble of like making a group for this. And I'm like, okay, whatever catcher, unless it's one of these catchers, unless it's a higher price catcher, right? Because all these guys are high price, 4,700, 4,800. Everyone else is going to be whatever's in your stack. So I'm going to go to build rules. I'm going to build 100. So we have 10% of like max 10% of any stack. So I'll build 100 there. Just makes your life a little bit easier. Now, the only in stacks function, just understand, slows down lineup HQ a bit. Okay, the more variables you give lineup HQ, the slower it tends to go. It's still pretty fast. I mean, but if you're trying to build, if you're trying to build 150 lineups, like it could take 60 seconds, right? It's not going to be, you're done, right? And the more you put in here, the more constraints, the more groups, the more types of stacks, it makes it a little bit slower. So don't try to set everything up and then it's 90 seconds to lock. I'm building. No, you're not going to get there in time. But let this load through. Look through the YouTube chat a little bit. Right, Frank Patty even says in the YouTube chat, right? You can just check it for all catchers and always get the catcher in your stack. Right, there you go. Hog Lawrence asks, roughly what percentage of batters are you okay with them being one-offs? Most of the batters. Typically, it's the weak hitting batters at the bottoms of orders. Or some really chalk hitter. Right? Because you may have an instance where, we have, it could be one of those days, if you remember, like the Royals, like Jorge Soler is like minimum price for no apparent reason, coming back from injury. And he's going to be like, and it's a 6-game slate. And he's like 34% owned. But the rest of the Royals are all single-digit owned. So it's like, do I want to, strategically, maybe Royal stacks are better than just playing Soler as a one-off. So maybe I use the only in stacks function, that checkbox, to go to get me leverage. So you could use it as a leverage tool of like, oh, this guy's going to be high owned, so I only want to play him in stacks because the stack isn't going to be as high owned in combination as the singular player. So here we go. Here we go with what we did with the catchers. Let me delete the other builds. Okay. So we go through a catcher. So we still have Contreras. We still have Smith, Perez, right? We still have some of the higher priced catchers. Now on this slate, I mean, it's because the pitching, you're probably paying in the mid tier for pitching, so you could pay up at catcher. But like Jorge Alfaro, only in Marlin stacks. So here we go. Look, he's not a one-off. Only in Marlin stacks. Francisco, only in Oriole stacks. You scroll it down. Jose Trevino, only in Ranger stacks. So Tucker Barnhart. Okay. Here's I missed one. Okay, I'm gonna have to report this. I don't know why Tucker Barnhart's showing up here. Do we check his box? Because he's in the red stack, but he's not in here. We've been testing this out. It mostly works. You rarely find an instance. Maybe it's trying to think that Suarez and Barnhart are stacked together. Did I check Barnhart? Let's just make sure I actually did. Yeah, I checked Barnhart. Okay, we'll take a look at that. That's what it's supposed to do. But for the most part, it did. I mean, legitimately, it did. It's like Perez, he's a one-off, right? He could be in, but he's also in a Royal stack, right? Royal stack, Royal stack, Royal stack, Royal stack, Royal stack, Royal stack, Royal stack. He's not a one-off. Let's see, Contreras is probably the one-off. Yeah, he's the highest projected catcher. So yeah, he's a one-off in a Red Sox stack. He's in a Cub stack, Rays stack with Contreras. Rays stack with Contreras. He's a Ranger stack with Contreras. Right? So you have a little bit more control. So you could use the only in stacks functionality in lineup HQ in a multitude of ways. I showed you here with the catchers. You can do that. I mean, I'll leave it on for that. And then let's say, like in that ownership example. So when to get off a catcher, go to ownership. So let's say you look at this, you look at ownership, and you go, well, the Dodgers are going to be chalky, right? Or look, Kike Hernandez. Here's a good example of what I mean by the guy's going to be chalk, but the stack may not be as chalky. So let's take a look at Boston. So Boston, Kike Hernandez, if he leads off, assuming that this is the order. So I'm going to sort by order. So Kike Hernandez, 25% owned on a 9-game slate. JD Martinez, 15% owned on a 9 games. Yeah, but if you played the stack isn't going to be that owned. So you could still play Kike Hernandez in the stack, but maybe not as a one-off second baseman. To get leverage, right? If you want to do that. So this is a way to use it as a leverage tool. So I'm going to put him only in stacks, maybe even put JD Martinez only in stacks. Right? So I could use the 25% own this guy and the 15% own that guy, but only in a stack because that stack's going to contain Verdugo, Bogarts, Devers, these guys that are lower owned. Renfroe, Vasquez, something like that. So if we look at our build with 100 lineups right here, Kiki's in 17 lineups. He's a one-off here. He's a one-off there. He's a one-off in a lot of lineups. Obviously, in a stack, I'm fine with that. We look at the combined ownership, and this is fine because you're getting a 7% owned Vasquez, Renfroe, Verdugo. You're getting guys that are low owned and they're correlated with one another. But maybe you don't want, for leverage purposes, have Kike Hernandez as just a one-off chalk second baseman. So now we're going to build 100 lineups that way. Let it run. And the same could be said with any other player, like I did with Cedric Mullins before. Now, if you're getting different elsewhere, if you're already saying I'm fading the 2 chalk pitchers, then you don't need to just include Kike Hernandez only in stacks as a leverage tool. You already got leverage in your lineups. I'm just showing how you could use these settings, these functionalities to get the lineups that you want to play. Remember what I always say, the optimizer is only as smart as the person using it. It's not going to tell you what to do. You tell it what to do. So you make the strategic decision of like do I need to get leverage? I'm playing large field tournaments. I'm playing a lot of Dodger stacks that are going to be chalky. Do I want to play Kiki Hernandez in Dodger stacks and also play Brandon Woodruff and Tyler Glasnow? Like, no, you're that's the chalk lineup. So how do I get different? Well, let me see the possibilities. One way to get different is not to play Kiki Hernandez as a one-off. So we look here, we go to Kiki Hernandez, right? He's only in stacks now. Right? Only in stacks. I mean, you still got chalk Tatis in there. You still have chalked Justin Turner in there. But you're getting, Bobby Dahl. I mean, I'm not saying this is the greatest stack in the world. 1, 3, 6, 8, 9. But you're getting a stack. You're getting the chalk pitchers, right? Woodruff, Glasnow. It's an easier way to do that. Right? Now we're getting a lot of Kettle Marte, right? Because if you're not going to play Kiki Hernandez at 3,000, probably going to play Kettle Marte at whatever, 2,700. The DraftKings pricing is some of these guys are, I don't know why are they under 3K? Who knows? But let's say you want to do the same thing with Kettle Marte. Right now we're getting into the range of we're getting rid of second basemen, right? So let's say you did. Let's say Kettle Marte. Let's just say we do the same thing. I don't want Kettle Marte as a one-off, right? He's going to be too chalky or something. You're going to find leverage out. So there you go. So put him there. Now let's see what comes up. Now the more that you make high projected players only in stacks, what that will do is cause a lot of your lineups to use whatever second baseman is on the team of the stack in the stack. If you understand what I'm saying. Because if it's going to have to choose between multiple players that are not as great projected, it's more likely that you just play the same consideration we were talking about with the catchers. Where the catchers, like any $2,800 catcher, they're all projected about the same. So why not play the catcher that's in your stack? Why play a one-off catcher? Just play the guy just play Tucker Barnhart. Just play Jose Trevino. If there's not much difference between any of the catchers in that range. Same could be said with possibly middle infielders, right? So Kettle Marte, he's still, we've got to look into this. It still thinks that, the second player is part of the stack, I guess. But now we're getting Josh Rojas, I guess, another Diamondback, right? But now here we go. Here's a Diamondback stack. Okay, so that's fine. Josh Rojas, Galvis is in the stack. Let's look at Kettle Marte. Yeah, I guess it's viewing the 2 part of the 5X. Like if I made this 5-3, then I could understand. But I guess if it also means that if another player is also in the lineup, the 2-man, we'll get that looked at. Should it be that way? I would think not. Based on the description, it should be that if I say only in stacks, that means I should not see him as anything other than in a 5-man stack or a 4-man stack on FanDuel or whatever the primary stack. I think that's the better way of putting it. So if I set this at 5X, like it's whatever this first number is, rather than who cares about the second number, because X just means it could be 5-2, 5-3, 5-1, 1-1. But truthfully, if I put in 5X, I'm assuming the X part, like that just means the guy's not going to be in that part. That's what I would think. But maybe some people have a different opinion. But I think it's a very, very useful tool. Prevents groups. I mean, I used to do a lot of things in order to not get like the 9th hitter on teams to show up. Byron Buxton, batting 9th at 3,200 or something, show up as a one-off in like 20% of my lineups. Like, well, what do I do? Do I just limit his exposure? It's like, no, I don't want to necessarily get rid of him. Now, if I'm not playing any twin stacks, then screw it. I just X them out. But let's say I'm playing twin stacks, and it's like, I want to include Barron Buxton, but only in twin stacks. But so then I would have to go, what you'd have to do, the old way of doing this would be, I'll show you the old way. So let's say we wanted to, we'll go back to Boston. So let's say we had that instance of, I only want to play Kiki Hernandez in stacks. So I would have to go and build a player group, right? I'd have to put Kiki Hernandez, right? And then I'd have to put everyone on the Red Sox. Okay, so that would be what? Verdugo. What's that? What's that order? Verdugo, Martinez, and Bogarts. Who else is on the team? Devers, Renfroe, Gonzalez. Devers, Renfroe, Gonzalez, Vasquez, and Dahlbeck, based on the projected order. So I have to do this, and then if I'm making 5-man stacks, I have to do this. Use exactly 4 players. So if Kiki Hernandez is in the lineup, the group makes it so I have to use 4 of these players for him to be in the lineup at all. So the group's logic is, well, Kiki Hernandez can't appear in any lineup without any of these 4 players, which means only in stacks, right? Now imagine doing this for 7 players. Imagine doing this for multiple players in the same team. Dahlbeck. I only want Dahlbeck in stacks. Okay, because you can't duplicate this. So now I have to do the same group with Dahlbeck here, right? And put all the Red Sox here, and then put 4-4 or 3-4 if you're building 4-man stacks. It's a pain in the ass, right? Now we got check boxes, right? I get rid of this group. It took me 20 seconds to make. I get to save the 20 seconds because I just go to the player pool, check that box, and I'm done, right? Only in stacks. I know it seems like such a minor addition, but I think if you're building a lot of lineups, I think it dramatically increases your efficiency in building lineups, because you could do a lot of you see how you could do a lot of things with them. Because a lot of times it even acts as like almost an X button. You see a guy come up in a bunch of lineups, and you're not playing that team in stacks. You don't even need to X them; just check them. Only in stacks. I only want Cedric Mullins in stacks. Well, are you playing any Orioles stacks? No. Okay, then I guess you're not playing any Cedric Mullins. Don't have to bother Xing them out. I'm not saying Xing them out is bad. It's just that, if he's X'd out, you forget about him or something, and maybe you do end up playing Orioles stacks, and maybe you forgot that you X'd. Once you start excluding people, they go away. So if you have any questions on this, you're more than welcome to ask on YouTube, obviously, and in the Discord. I'm in the BAT Discord primarily, if you're a BAT subscriber. But if you could mention me in the MLB channel on the RotoGrinders Discord, feel free to just at blenderhd in the Discord if you're a premium member. I'll answer anything. And obviously, we have the Lineup HQ help channel in the Discord if you have any issues with any of the features. And we're always in there, right? Cheese is in there. I mean, there's Bob Reeves. He's talking in there right now. We have everyone. Chop's in there, always checking in. Kirk Deeds is always, when it comes to if he's doing well on Yahoo, he's in there. So join. Click on the link in the description. Get $10 off your first month. Let's see. Let's see. Going through some of the YouTube chat before we get out of here. Let's see. Jupocalypse says, so similar to curating the player pool, you could check all players and uncheck only the players you're okay with as one-offs. I think the reverse. I don't think that way. Any player could be a one-off. I don't care. It's more of the fact of when I'm building 100 lineups, 150 lineups, whatever, usually the lineups, I don't want to have one-off. I typically don't want to have like one-off weak hitting, eighth hitting first baseman as a one-off. Like, why can't can I build a similarly projected and owned lineup that has Freddie Freeman at first base? Right? Then a guy that may have 1.5 less at bats as a one-off. See, in the stack, I don't mind the bottom of the order because if the team puts up 15 runs, who cares if they can still get 5 at bats at the bottom of the order, right? So what do I care, right? Some ninth hitting outfielder that's 3,200 that hits, D Gordon or something like that, right? Gil Heredia, or I don't know, you just name someone. Do I want that guy as a one-off? Yeah, every once in a while, yeah, they'll put up 23 points. Yeah, fine. But most likely, if they do well, if they do hit a ceiling, it's because the team has done well. So I'm more likely to think in terms of who do I not want as a one-off than who do I want as a one-off. And most of the time, if I have 100 players in my pool, 90 of them I don't mind as a one-off. Maybe 10 I have problems with. So don't think in terms of who do you want as a one-off. Whatever fits. Remember, we're going by the projection. So whatever fits, it's fine. It's like in the middle infield position. So I don't mind a light hitting. I did barely any second basemen to play. Oh, you're betting, someone's betting eighth. Who cares? You're playing Freddie Galvis as a one-off. Well, compared to who? There aren't that many good second basemen on the slate. Right? The same thing with the cat, and the catcher is the position that we talk about the most. Like most of them bat at the bottom of the order. So it's like, well, who do I play? Jose Trevino or Jorge Alfaro? Like, what does it matter? Like, they're both projected for like 5.5 points. So like, what does it matter? So if given the choice and I need to fill a catcher spot, just whatever the catcher is from the team that I already have 4 players from. So like, there you go. Pink them in and then you're done. Get positive correlation from that. Get the ceiling from that rather than have a one-off catcher from some other team that also sucks. That's what I think in terms of not like who can be a one-off. I'm thinking of who is not ideal as a one-off. People are talking amongst themselves. Alex Santi is here. Alex wrote a great article on RotoGrinders about contest selection. It should have been a premium article. Like it's nothing different than what I say, but it's written very well. So if you want to understand contest selection, read his article. It's not just you play these guys and play the math of the contest selection. Playing head-to-heads versus 50-50s versus triple-ups versus what type of lineup are you building and what contest should you play in the long run. I know Alex isn't like an MME person, so he doesn't talk that much about the large field GPPs. But it's a lengthy article, and you should be reading it. And it could go such a long. There are probably tons of people out there that are good DFS players, that are good, that have equal amount of skill at DFS, that are losing money only because of contest selection. Because they're either going for broke or they're being too conservative, and they're playing the wrong types of lineups in the wrong types of contests. So if you read that and just that, so much of your money may just come from that. Going through the YouTube chat, and now Alex is just answering everyone's question. That's fine, good. Less work for me to do, right? This was just a primer, right? I wanted to show off the only in stacks feature. I wanted to show off some of the new build rule stuff. There'll be some other stuff coming out as well. That was the main, the only in stacks. That's the thing I've been petitioning for like 2 years. So I'm going to show you how I use only in stacks, because I would use them in the groups and it would take me forever to do it. Either I would use them in the groups or I just say screw it. I guess I have 8th hitters and 9th hitters as one-offs because it's not too time consuming. Now I don't have to worry about it as much, right? I got my little checkbox there, so that's good. So hit the button, hit the thumbs up button. Hit the thumbs up button on your way out the door. You got something out of it. You kept my apple juice cold in the morning, and that's where I'm here. I'm here every morning, right? Maybe not tomorrow on the pregame show, 11:25. You'll see the YouTube posting. You'll see it. You'll see the tweets go out. So it'll be me, it'll be Dean, it'll be Cardi. Opening day, MLB opening day. It's finally here tomorrow. And then on Friday, I'll be back. And then we'll be and I'll be reviewing the MLB slates, right? And then we'll be talking. We may actually get to talk about strategy stuff specifically for the day's slate. Because unlike the NBA, MLB, you don't have 7,000 people sitting at that. Who knows? And 17 people on the injury report and all that. So the stuff that you talk about at 11 o'clock in the morning may actually be relevant 8 hours from then. So that'll be a nice change of pace, because that's what I enjoy doing here with you guys on the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders.com.